G'day, g'day. My name's Alan Gamble. Welcome to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts with a bit of a surprise hit, so let's dive right in. At number 1, we have The Conjuring Last Rites with $4.8 million for a current total of 5.3. We'll dive more into the Conjuring franchise a little bit later, but this is a fantastic opening. The highest of the franchise, and let's just say our top horror openings of 2025 is getting a bit of an update. And this is actually the highest opening of a horror movie in Australia since Five Nights at Freddy's back in October 2023. Smashing. Surprise. I expected it to be number 1. I didn't expect it to do that well. At number 2, we have The Roses opening with just over $1 million for a current total of $1.6 million. Pushing The Naked Gun down to 3rd position in week 3, dropping 36% for a current total of $5.2 million, bringing in another $700,000 this weekend. At number 4, we have Weapons with another $400,000, dropping 57% in its 5th week of release, which is remarkable holding power for a horror movie, for a current total of $9.7 million. And another bit of a surprise for the top 5 with Lokah Chapter 1 Chandra, bringing in another $300,000, which is actually a 28% uptick on week 2, for a current total of just under $700,000. The reason that's a little bit surprising is, A, most movies don't go up in week 2, but that's even more rare in Indian films that are normally very, very front-loaded, which often have a week 2 drop of 80 to 90%. That's not uncommon. So that's remarkable hold for an Indian film in Australia. Let's move on to the 6 through 10. At number 6, we have Freakier Friday, with another $250,000 in its 5th week of release, dropping 55% for a current total of $6.2 million, which has just passed the total gross of Freaky Friday from 2003, but unadjusted for inflation, so it's not there yet. At number 7, we have F1 the movie holding with a drop of just 7% in its 11th week in the top 10. Amazing legs on F1. With another $200,000 for a current total of $29.9 million. In number 8, we have Fantastic Four: The First Steps, bringing another $200,000 in its 7th week of release, dropping 38% for a current total of $17.7 million. Caught Stealing spends another week in the top 10 with another $200,000, dropping 59% for a current total of $849,000. And Madharaasi opens in 10th, which is the Tamil language action romance we touched on last week, sneaks its way into the top 10. Opening outside of the top 10 that we talked about last week was Fight or Flight, which seemed to copy its performance in the US market, opening outside the top 10 in 11th position. And while I really liked it, Sorry Baby opened in 27th position, but something like that was never going to set the box office on fire, unless it gets a re-release after picking up some awards buzz towards the end of the year. But I really liked it anyway, but not in the top 10. Alright, as I promised, an update to the top horror openings of 2025. The Conjuring Last Rites now sits at number 1 with $4.8 million, smashing the previous number 1, which was Weapons with $2.8 million. 28 years later goes down to number 3 with $2.5 million, and Nosferatu down to 4 with $2.3 million. Final Destination Bloodlines opens with its $2 million in number 5, and that knocks out Sinners, which opened with about $1.3 million, but did have incredible legs and an incredible week 2. But top 5 openings of the year that are horror movies, this is what it currently looks like. Alright, so let's take a look at and talk about The Conjuring. The Conjuring movie universe. Now, these are not my type of movies, so I had to do a bit of a deep dive, and it turns out there's a lot of these movies that I didn't even know about. So, starting with The Conjuring back in 2013, there was then a spin-off in 2014 called Annabelle. Those both opened around 1.8 to 1.9 million. The Conjuring 2 in 2016 opened to 3.5 million, and then Annabelle's sequel, Annabelle Creation, in 2017 opened to 2.2 million. The Nun, a new spin-off, opened in 2018 to $3.7 million. And Annabelle 3 then released in 2019 with $1.9 million. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It in 2021 opened to $2.8 million. and The Nun 2 in 2023 opened to $2.3 million. And then we had The Conjuring Last Rites, opening to $4.8 million, and you can see by this chart, it's just left everything dead in the water. No pun intended. It blew everything away. So I don't know what the hype was, whether it's a finale hype boost, which we'd have seen with things like Final Destination, the last something or other, the Final Destination, got a massive boost because that was marketed as the final one, even though it wasn't. And I think the same thing is happening here. Even if we adjust these numbers for inflation, while it's not a perfect metric, you can see it still has a lead on anything else. The Conjuring 2 and The Nun being the closest competitors at $4.4 and $4.5 million. So a smashing success. I don't think this franchise is going anywhere anytime soon. It's certainly not going away. We're going to get more of these every couple of years for a long time, I suspect, because they're just making good money, good, consistent money, and every so often they have a big, massive boost. So there's how the Conjuring franchise looks, if that's what you're interested in the Aussie market. Moving on to the top 10 for 2025. No major changes, by which I mean no changes apart from a Minecraft movie has finally frozen its gross. So it is at $56.2 million and no longer showing in any cinemas in Australia. Lilo and Stitch is at number 2 with $34 million, Jurassic World Rebirth at $31 million, How to Train Your Dragon at $30 million. F1 the movie is still trying to chase it down at $29.9 million, and I think it might get there. Superman trailing at $24.8 million at number 6. Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning at $23.6 million at number 7. Paddington in Peru at number 8 with $17.8 million. Fantastic Four First Steps at $17.7 million at number 9, and Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy at $16.5 million, rounding out the top 10. And let's get into what's upcoming this week, theatrically and on streaming. Theatrically in wide release, we have 2 major releases. One is Splitsville, pegged as an unromantic comedy from writer-director Michael Covino and starring Dakota Johnson and Adria Arjona. We also have The Long Walk, a new horror from director Francis Lawrence based on the Stephen King novel, starring Cooper Hoffman, David Johnson, and Garrett Waring. Those are the wide releases for 11th of September. In limited releases, so check your local and smaller chains, we have Downton Abbey, the grand finale, with the last Downton Abbey theatrical special doing really solid numbers. I'd not be surprised to see this one pop up in the charts next week. This one is directed by Simon Curtis and starring all of the faces you'll know from the series. We also have Toy Story, the 30th anniversary, a 30th anniversary rescreening of the original Toy Story movie, and Lesbian Space Princess, a new queer animated sci-fi comedy from writer and director pair Leela Varghese and Emma Hugh Hobbs. So if you're up for a theatrical release, that's what you can catch this week. Let's move on to streaming. New things to watch. We have The Wrong Paris on September 12th, a new movie over on Netflix. It's a new romantic comedy on Netflix directed by Janine Damian and starring Miranda Cosgrove and Pierce Ford. We also have The Girlfriend, a new miniseries airing on September 10th on Amazon Prime. A new miniseries drama from creators Naomi Sheldon and Gabby Asher, starring Robin Wright and Olivia Cook. We also have Tempest, a new series on Disney Plus airing on September 10th, which is a new Korean mystery drama series from creator Chung Seo-kyung, the writer of The Handmaiden, Lady Vengeance, and Decision to Leave. So this could be awesome, starring Jun Ji-hyun, John Cho, and Gang Dong-won. In returning series, we get Season 5 of Only Murderers in the Building on Disney Plus on September 9th, and somehow being revived for a second or third time is Futurama with Season 13 over on Disney Plus, releasing on September 15th. So if you've got nothing to watch, well, you now know about these and you can schedule them on your calendar accordingly. With 5 movies watched for the theme of 2-word titles, let's dive in. First up was Freaky Tales from earlier in 2025, written and directed by Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, starring Jay Ellis, Pedro Pascal, my third Pedro Pascal movie for 2025, Ben Mendelsohn, and Dominique Thorne. A retro, stylized 80s throwback anthology movie with multiple stories all tying into one another. A fun watch that does improve after the first story for me. The video shop scene was amazing. I loved it. Next up was Dogman, directed by Peter Hastings and starring Pete Davidson, Lil Ray Howery, and Isla Fisher. What an unexpected, hilarious movie. Easily in contention for funniest movie of the year for me, but also a probably really safe movie for the watch with the kids for those that have family. While the adults will get all the other jokes, kids will still be able to have fun and laugh at what they think are the jokes. So a really great movie, surprise gem of this week for me. Next was a real surprise gem that came out of the pandemic restrictions, 2021's Language Lessons. Written and directed by Natalie Morales, starring Natalie Morales and Mark Duplass, who also shared a writing credit. Basically trying to what War of the Worlds was trying to do in relation to a movie taking place via screens, except Language Lessons nailed it and didn't suck. Really good movie, had a lot of feelings, a lot of heart, really hits you in the emotions, that one does. Moving on was 2025's Red Sonja, directed by MJ Bassett, starring Matilda Lutz, Robert Sheehan, and Wallace Day. This was a movie, but seriously, it wasn't great. But if you like those old school sword and monster B-grade movies, this might be the best you're going to get nowadays, as it's not a genre that gets produced much of. So if you've got slim pickings and you're desperate, it exists, but only if you love that genre. Finally was my cinema trip for last weekend, Sorry Baby, written, directed and starring Eva Victor. A great little 2025 movie that picked up some buzz out of Sundance, and I really liked it. Dark themes, but not dark in tone, which is a really hard line to balance, a really hard line to walk, but it had a lot of heart with some ominous tones, but showing strength and positivity. Very similar in the sense of Bob Trevino likes this, where it was taking some dark ideas, but kept it focused on the positive sides and moving forward. Really cool little movie. Hope it gets some awards recognition at the end of the year. And looking at this week's Cinechums Movie Challenge, it's based on written works. So things based on novels, short stories, non-fiction articles, graphic novels, oral histories, or poems and epic poetry. A few people have started, but let's look at my shortlist, which consists of a whopping 61 movies with things like Breathless, that's based on an article, The Night of the Hunter, The Thursday Murders Club, Long Walk, Confess Fletch, Alita, Ghost in the Shell. I have so many movies on my shortlist this week. It's kind of crazy, but we'll see how we go. That's it for me this week. I don't think I'm going to be catching anything this weekend because I'm not a Downton Abbey fan. I'm not sure of The Long Walk. Splitsville is a maybe if I have some time. And maybe Lesbian Space Princess. We'll see how we go. But nothing hard locked in for my plans as yet. So I'm going to dedicate some time to my other hobbies on the weekend and start learning how to paint minis. But I will be watching a lot of challenge movies, hopefully. And next week, we will be crunching the numbers of how The Long Walk and Splitsville go. And I'll be surprised to see how Downton Abbey goes, because while I may not be a fan, I know it has a lot of fans out there. So we'll see how that does next week. But that's it for me. I'll see you next week. Watch more movies. Bye.